last video I did as part of my first attempt series was pouring resin. For the most part, it went well, but I did have some issues. So today's video, I'm going to go through all the different problems I encountered and issues and try to implement some corrective actions to see if we can get a better result on my second attempt. Part of learning and growing and learning something new is to troubleshoot, move through, figure out what went wrong, how can you fix it to get better. So we're going to go through the different problems I encountered and what some of the root cause and corrective actions I can implement. I am an industrial engineer by trade, so doing RCCAs, or root cause correction action, are just kind of second nature for me. The first poster we did, which I identified pretty early on I was going to have issues with, was when I tried to use vegetable oil instead of mold release. So I ended up with cloudy, weird, dense bubbles, textures. This one, we'll be honest, was a fail. I even ended up crooked. I have no clue how badly this one went, but if this was my only attempt, we would have definitely called last time videos a fail, not a success. So first lesson learned here is don't try to use some home remedy. It didn't work, so we are going to say this was a fail. So our corrective action is mold release. I joke this is why I have trust issues. So Tuesday when I went shopping, today's Friday, I bought this at Michael's because I had ordered this on Amazon and the shipping date was forever out. I'm like, well, it's not going to be here for a week and a half. I want to record this video, so I went ahead and bought this can. Yesterday, this showed up in the mail. So thanks, Amazon. But take silver linings. I have two different brands now from two different locations, so now I can try two different mold releases to see which I like better. So that was our first problem. Second problem, my layers on my better coaster, you could see I have some kind of distinctive layering, but it's not enough. So we're going to go through the 5 whys. Why? Well, my resin wasn't hard enough, so they mixed together. Well, why did there's not hard enough? Because I did not wait long enough between pours. So that's a pretty straightforward oops. So I kind of was like, how long do I wait? So I Googled and it somewhere said 4 hours. And since I know at 8 it was pretty hard, I'm thinking 4 would probably be plenty to get it pretty well congealed to be able to add that second layer. So we're going to try 4 hours between pours this time. Next problem, the blue, I wanted dark blue, is definitely not dark blue. So there could be a couple problems with that. A is when the layers mix together, obviously I lost that blue dye mixed with everything else giving me my light blue. And I maybe didn't add enough dye. So we're going to go ahead and try to add more dye, and then waiting longer between layers should also fix that issue. Next problem, uneven layers, because I identified pretty early on that I poured a little too much of clear, which meant I didn't quite have enough for my other 2 layers. So we're going to fix this with 2 ways. One, we learned then, is to get down eye level so you're at the right angle on it. And secondly, I'm just going to do 2 layers this time to have a little bit more to play with. So I'm going to do my first layer with the clear and glitter, and then my second layer with the dark blue. We'll see how that works out. Next problem, even though this one's a lot better, I still have a lot of tiny little bubbles. So I'm not really sure why, so I did do some research. A couple solutions I read is that we can warm up our resin before in a warm water bath, so I'm trying that. Another thing I read is to try pouring the hardener first, then your resin. I did it opposite last time, so we'll try that. And also, I'm just going to try stirring a lot longer, a little more heat gun. And then I found this I have for different project, which is a little pokey thing I could try trying to get those bubbles versus just using the stir sticks, because that didn't work great last time. And exciting, I did order some silicone stir sticks. They'll eventually show up probably when my mold release was supposed to. Thanks, Amazon. So that is some of my correction actions I'm going to take. I've got all my supplies, so we'll go ahead and get started and pour my first layer this morning. It is about 10 a.m. on a Friday, and then about 2 o'clock this afternoon we'll come back and pour my second layer. And then we'll give it actually the full time to do the full release probably either tonight or tomorrow morning. So we'll go ahead and get started. First, we're going to go ahead and spray our 2 molds with the mold spray. That way we can kind of see how each of these works. I read the instructions. They both say keep it 8 to 10 inches away. I didn't see anything about shaking up, but usually you need to I don't hear anything about shaking, so I don't think I need to. I don't hear like with spray paint. So we're going to go ahead. It's at 8 to 10 inches, which feels about here. So we'll go ahead and spray this. It looks pretty even. The instructions said don't overspray, so hopefully that's the right amount. If not, it'll be another lesson learned of figuring it out. Cool. Okay, now this one is the one I got from Amazon. I'm going to say that the finish and the spray looks about the same for both, so I'm going to set these to the side and put them in the order I sprayed so I can keep track of which mold release is on which coaster. So we got that. We'll let this set aside. Next, mix my resin. So this time we're going to try starting with the hardener first. I have all my instructions written down on my handy dandy clipboard, and depending on the complexity of the project, depends on how much instructions, measurements, what I need. And for work, we have standard work or more formal documentation. So this is just a good, here's what I need. It's right there, easily accessible to help me not make as many mistakes. So I decided that we are going to do 2.3 ounces of white and glitter and 1.5 ounces of blue. I kind of guesstimated with the top part and just kind of divided that in half to come up with that. This is just a personal preference, just to see. And I will say that I know that it's 2.34 per coaster, and since this is a 1-to-1 mix, I can just do 2.34 of each and get the volume I need. So we're gonna get down low. That was a lesson learned. So we got my resin mixed. I'll go ahead and do a quick stir just to start the mixing process. I feel like we already have fewer air bubbles than we did before by having it warmed up and by mixing the hardener first with the other. I'll take a quick picture and then we can compare. As you can see, here's the difference between my first pour last time and my first pour this time with the clear. Next up, we are going to add some of my glitter. Again, I still am not 100% sure how much I need, so we're just going to wing it. I found these little scoops mixed in my supply, so I figured we'll try 1 scoop. I'll do 2 scoops. I like glitter. So added my glitter, because you can never have too much sparkle. Now we're going to go ahead and pour. This is where we go into fast forward mode because stirring is not that exciting. I think it's pretty stirred. This did not take nearly as much stirring as it did last time with that clear. I had a lot of air bubbles. So I will say that I think that warming it up and then pouring the hardener first, I'm not sure which caused the better, but the combination seemed to help a ton with the amount of bubbles. So, and then also we learned last time that glitter kind of helped break up the bubbles since there's so many. So we'll see if this works better. I'm going to go ahead and pour my resin very slowly into each. I feel like we got them pretty level. It looks like we've got some there are a few little bubbles, but I definitely feel like there's a lot less than the big ones that we saw last time. So we're going to call that already a good process improvement. Even though I have less, I'm going to still go ahead and kind of apply heat with a heat gun. And what we've learned from last time also is that we need to be high up, far away, so we don't end up with bubbles of heat going everywhere and not end up with overspill. So we'll go ahead and spray our heat gun. I feel like that helped a little bit, so we will come back in a few hours and we'll go ahead and mix up and work on pouring layer 2. For now, I'm going to cover these up, let them set, and see what happens. And we're back. I have let my resin dry. It actually ended up being probably closer to 5 hours. I lost track of time, and oops, here we are. But I figure 4 hours versus 5, either's pretty good. So as you can see, my resin is a lot more set up. It's kind of got a, like, it's still flexible. It's kind of got a gel mold to it, but it's definitely well within the mold and a lot firmer than it was when I tried to do this last time. So I did run out of the other brand of resin, so I got another one. It is similar, Amazon, also low VOC, non-toxic, low fume. And I already put it in a bath of warm water because that worked well last time and dried it off. And we are also going to start with the hardener, which is B, and this is also 1-to-1 ratio. I had done the math, and I need about 3 ounces of resin to finish off these. So I need about 1.5 ounces of each, the hardener and the mix-in. So we'll start with the hardener again, like last time, getting down low. So we're on eye level. That's the one thing is always nerve-wracking, making sure that you have the right mix. And last time we figured out that like 4 to 6 drops were not anywhere near, so I did like 12, which I do isn't dark enough. So we're going to try about 16 drops to see what I get. Because I definitely want a dark blue. So now we will go to fast forward mode as I stir. We have stirred, added all of our color. There's still a few air bubbles, but it definitely isn't too bad. I think it's just the nature of the beast and you're mixing 2 fluids and a bunch of color together. So, but it's definitely a lot darker blue than last time. I definitely added more dye, probably about 20 some pieces. I wanted this to be a nice dark blue to kind of get that contrast of the silver into clear. So we will go ahead and slowly pour this in. And this is 24-hour set, so but it's a lot thinner because it's going to be just a little bit of the base. So sometime tomorrow I'll go ahead and unmold and be patient this time and wait till tomorrow to see how we end up turning out. I'll take that as a win. So I have my molds full. We have the blue, and this time, as we can see, it did not mix and mash like the day before. It looks like it's pretty well stayed separated. So now it's the impatient part of me that has to wait the 24 hours until tomorrow to come back and see how this turned out. I am optimistic that I think we're going to get better results than last time, so it's always exciting to see improvement. Stay tuned and we'll see how it goes. We are back. It is now the next day at about 11:30 a.m. This bottom layer I did with the glitter and white, I did yesterday about 10 a.m. So that's what, but 25 and a half hours. So that should definitely be well set up. This top layer I did, which is pretty thin, yesterday about 2:30, 3 o'clock. So we're now more like 21 hours for that, but it looks like it's pretty hard and set up. It looks pretty good. There are 1 or 2 little air bubbles I see that kind of rose to the top, but for the most part, it looks pretty darn good for my second attempt at casting resin. So we will go ahead, demold these, and see how we did. It looks like they're coming off pretty easy with the mold release. Also came off pretty clear. I don't see really much different with the way the molds look or the way these look as far as saying one mold release is better than the other. So I figure like any mold release works. I don't see enough to classify one better than the other. These both look about the same. They're hard. And you can see versus last time where we had cloudiness with this oil. We don't have any of those or those indentions anymore. And where last time, the one that turned out better, you can see we definitely have better distinctive layers with the dark. It's still not quite as dark as I'd like. So I'm going to have to try a different product. Maybe like a mica or something to get that real dark bottom. But it's definitely bluer, definitely glittery, and definitely has a much more distinctive layer. As far as bubbles go, there's 1 or 2 little ones, but nothing too bad. And a little couple on the bottom. I'll check this one. Again, a couple little ones. I see here, there's one there. So there's still a few that I need to work through of how to completely debubble this. But the texture is definitely a lot better. It's a lot smoother. And I would say overall, these came out way better than these. And by mixing the glitter in with the clear and getting that real good mixture, because I had more where I didn't have quite enough glitter. Instead of just kind of being scattered, it's definitely more consistently across it. Probably a little too much glitter, but is that really a thing? But overall, I think we did better this time, and we had a lot of improvements, and we'll continue to work through those improvements, such as little tiny air bubbles that I'm obviously struggling with, and to continue to refine and get a better and better process, which is all about learning, growing, and creating. But I will say we definitely did a lot better this time than last time, and I'm going to call that a success as far as troubleshooting. I'll continue to grow and improve and make process improvements to get better and better at creating resin. So I encourage you to go out there and create. If you enjoyed this video or this content, please subscribe. And if you want, go back and watch the first video if you haven't, to see how we got to the stage to start with. Have a great day.